PS Portal has been out for about a month now, and I've been using it pretty often since it was released. This is Sony's newest attempt at a handheld, though it doesn't actually play games of its own. It streams the games from your PS5 on a local internet connection. And this thing's been getting quite a bit of hate online from when it was announced all the way up until it was released. But for some reason, it still remains sold out a month later. Well, I want to talk about my experiences with the Portal after a good amount of time using it. So as you probably already know, the Portal is a PS5 game streaming device, not a standalone console. And when it was first announced, I was a little bit skeptical, but I told you guys if they could get it under $200 that I would pick one up. And being that it was announced at $199.99, I went ahead and put in a pre-order as soon as they were allowed. And I'm really glad that I did, because to this day, a month later, you still can't find one easily at retail price. So we're going to get into it today. I'm going to talk about what I do and don't like about the PlayStation Portal. Okay, I just want to get this out of the way first. I know a lot of you are going to comment, but Jay, why don't you just get a backbone controller? They're cheaper and do the exact same thing. Well, if you're the type of person that can tolerate using a backbone controller for more than one game session, you're a very patient person who may also be a masochist. The point of this device is to pick it up and play it. That's it. It solves my biggest issue with remote play, which is the setup. I used to remote play a little bit with my iPad and just a regular controller, but after doing it once or twice, I would sit down on the couch and say, man, I really don't feel like setting that thing up. So I would just pick up the Nintendo Switch or the Analog Pocket. And don't even get me started on the backbone. This might be a great device for some, but for me, it just looks like a terrible gaming experience. Now, I've never owned one, but can you even use that thing without removing your phone case entirely from the phone to just plug it in? And then once you do got it plugged in, your notifications are going off, your mom's texting you, you realize that a whole lot of no one else is texting you, and then you just get kind of sad, and now you're using a backbone controller, so you're extra sad. It's not a great gaming experience, and I really try not to torture myself these days, especially when it comes to gaming. But if you like them, that's great. You keep using them. That's awesome. What I love about the Portal is that when it works, it just works. But when it doesn't work, it definitely doesn't work. And we'll get into that. But let's talk about some of the pros first. Okay, so the setup. First of all, the setup on this thing is a breeze. Once you get this thing set up to your PS5 one time, it's locked in, you're good to go. And then waking it back up is just a tap of a button. About 10 to 20 seconds later, you're right back in your game. And that is what I love the most about it. But to get the best experience, you really do need to have good to great internet. PlayStation recommends that you have at least a 15 megabits per second internet speed to have this thing work successfully. But I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now that that's definitely not gonna cut it. So we just got fiber internet in my area, and at first I was still having a lot of issues getting a good connection. I was very confused. My PS5 is right over here, and it's connected directly to my router via Ethernet. And in general, in my house, we never have any issues really streaming shows or watching YouTube on multiple devices at one time. But at first, this thing would lose connection like every 30 seconds. It was unbearable. I was really on the verge of returning it.
Literally makes my head hurt because of the frame dropping.
And when I would check the Wi-Fi speeds on my phone, I was sitting around 30 up and down, so I really wasn't sure what was going on. But just to be sure, before I gave up all hope, I went ahead and bought a new Wi-Fi 6 router just to see and make sure that that wasn't the issue, because the router I was using before was about 4 years old. And then after doing that, it boosted my speeds enough to make this thing an amazing experience. And I have not been having any issues since then playing this thing in my house. It's been great. The thing about that though is I'm not sure that the average PS5 consumer has this type of setup. I think most people probably just have their PS5 sitting in their room or in their living room where they like to play their games, and it's just sharing the Wi-Fi from one router in their house. Maybe I'm wrong though. You guys let me know in the comments. How do you have your PS5 hooked up to the internet, whether it be hardwired with Ethernet or on the Wi-Fi? And if that's the case and everyone's on standard Wi-Fi both on the PS5 and the Portal, I can see why this thing is getting so much hate online for lagging out. It just seems to need a much better connection than advertised to work properly. Okay, so let's touch on ergonomics, because I actually loved the way this thing looked ever since it was announced. I mean, just look at it. It looks so stupid and crazy. It's like they just went with the first concept drawing for the handheld that was just put on the table. They're like, here you go. We put the screen in between the DualSense and PS Portal. So yeah. But the funniest part is it's actually the most comfortable handheld I think I've ever played. The PS5 DualSense controller is the best controller in my opinion. It's just the most comfortable to hold and play on. So I think Sony made a wise choice by just saying, let's just put a screen in it. When it comes to handhelds like the Nintendo Switch, that thing cramps my hands up in about 30 minutes. They just start to go completely numb. So I can't play that for very long. And even the ROG Ally does that, but luckily you can only play that thing for about 40 minutes and the battery dies, which I'm sure was a purposeful design choice to protect you from carpal tunnel. With the Portal though, I can play this thing for however long I want, and I have yet to get any sort of hand pain playing it. Since it's so light, it's really nice to hold for long periods of time. Battery life. Okay, so I'm getting about 4 hours of playtime on this thing. That's at medium settings, brightness, audio, haptics, all that stuff, which I feel like is pretty good. But it doesn't display your battery percentage for some reason, which I think is insane. We just get 3 bars right here on the top right of the screen. I looked everywhere in the settings and online, and it seems like that's just the way it is. I thought I was doing something wrong, and I couldn't find the settings. I even looked in the PS5 menu, and I couldn't find anything. So yeah, 3 bars is all you get. So once you get to 1 bar, you kind of got to guess to see how much more playtime you have. But I'm sure there's an update for that coming. I don't think I missed the setting. I mean, I looked everywhere for it. I could not figure out how to turn the battery percentage on. All right, we got to talk about it. Everybody's talking about it. Bluetooth. Okay, we have to talk about this one. This one pissed a lot of people off that this thing actually doesn't have Bluetooth capabilities built into it. You cannot set up any of your own Bluetooth headphones to the device. Now, I get it. Sony wants you to buy their new headphones that they have coming out that will work with the device, but I know a lot of people were wanting to use their Bluetooth stuff on it, so I understand them being upset. For me personally, I don't care at all. Now, I'm pretty sure Sony has to pay some sort of royalties to have Bluetooth in their devices, kind of like the same way the Wii didn't have DVD capabilities because they wanted to get the price lower, so they didn't want to pay the royalties to Dolby Digital, I think is who owned that at the time. So that makes sense. I'd rather have the device be like 50 bucks cheaper with no Bluetooth, because for me, when I'm holding something like 2 feet away from my face, it's just easier to just plug headphones into it anyways. You know, I'm not the type of person that needs to have Bluetooth on everything. I don't really care about it. So for me, not an issue. For you, maybe it is. Let me know. I do kind of hate that they put the ports underneath though. I guess it kind of makes sense because then if you have like headphones plugged in, it can go like underneath, and then you can not have to have them like hanging over the screen. But it's really awkward to get to, like when you want to plug it in, because it has this like little lip on it, so it makes it kind of hard to plug it in. And the same thing would plug it in the charger. It's kind of awkward. It would be better if it was just like straight up on the back or on the top, but you know, that's kind of like a nitpick. It's not that bad. The screen is good. A lot of people were upset because they said, oh, it's not OLED, it's LCD. It should be OLED. For me, you know, it would have been nice if it was OLED, but at the same time, it comes back to that price point, because if this thing was over 200 bucks, I don't think I would have picked it up. So if they would have made this a 250 price point and had OLED screen, I would have been like, maybe I'll pick one up. Let's see how they are first, you know what I mean? And then I wouldn't have ended up getting one. But because they did LCD on a smaller device like this, I'm not that concerned about having the super deep blacks and everything like that. It's nice, but you know, when the screen's so small, I don't notice it as much as I would if I was playing on like a bigger computer monitor or on a big 50-inch screen. Really, I think Sony did a good job cutting the corners in the right places to get this thing at a good price point that made sense. I think one area that they should have improved on, though, was the Wi-Fi receivability. If this thing could pick up a better Wi-Fi signal, it definitely would have been better off. All right, we're just going to talk about this one really quick, because there's a lot of jokes online about it. It has an airplane mode, and it's like, why would this device have an airplane mode on it when it literally doesn't function unless it's connected to Wi-Fi? I'm pretty sure that's just an FCC regulation or something like that. Like every single device has to have an airplane mode on it. So it's just funny because people were making jokes about turning it on and then the whole device basically shuts off. But yeah, I think it's just some sort of regulation. So all right, so let's get into a big question that I had for this device, which was, will it work on public Wi-Fi? And I'm not just talking about being out in public and having it tethered to your phone and playing like that, but I mean actually going into, say, restaurants or public spaces and hooking up to the guest Wi-Fi there. How good will it work? Will it work at all? And how will the connection and gaming experience be? So the first place that I checked out was a local bookstore, and luckily I was able to connect to their guest Wi-Fi. Once the portal was hooked up to the Wi-Fi, I was able to sign back into my PS5 back at home in about 60 seconds. And once it synced back up, it threw me right back into the game that I was playing before I left the house. The lag wasn't actually too bad at first, but I noticed that there was a lot of aliasing and the resolution that I was getting on the portal was really, really low. It was getting pretty pixelated in this spot, so I decided to get up and move to another section of the store to see see how it played. It's hard to know where they put the Wi-Fi routers when you're in public stores like this, so I just kept moving around to try to find a better connection. It didn't really seem to help though. What seemed to keep happening is that I would get a pretty decent connection for like 30 seconds and I'd be able to play, and then I'd just start lagging out again. I don't know if they're maybe throttling how much data I'm allowed to use or you're allowed to use and consume on the public networks. Who knows? But yeah, this is kind of my experience when I was playing in this bookstore. I did check the speeds on my phone to kind of get a feel for what we were looking at for my upload and download, but it definitely was not enough.
All right, ready?
Yep, go for it.
Whoa. All right, so we're in the airport right now, and this is probably the #1 place you'd want to use a handheld device like this. So if it doesn't work here, it's pretty much useless. So let's go up here, try to connect to the internet and see if it works. So it looks like the only available public Wi-Fi inside of this airport right now is the Fly DAB. It has 1 bar, so let's try to see if we can connect to it. Oh, that's a bummer. Oh, you're kidding me. We got the freaking browser error. This network requires an additional validation step that uses a web browser connect to a different network. So basically, unless you're at a public place that has completely unsecure Wi-Fi that you can just connect to and start using, you're not going to be able to use this device. If the Wi-Fi in the building has some sort of terms and conditions that you need to access via an internet browser, you're not going to be able to do it on this. This thing doesn't have an internet browser. Funny enough, I was able to get a pretty good connection when I was in the Hard Rock Casino. I was playing Death Stranding for a good 10 or 15 minutes without it lagging out. So how is the lag in the best conditions? We saw how it was in the public spaces, but when you're in your house playing it, normal conditions, how you would play it every day, how bad is the lag? Well, let's just put it like this. So for me, with the PS5, I basically only play one-player story games. I've been playing a lot of Dead Island 2. I've been playing some Death Stranding on this thing, a little bit of Stray, and I haven't been having any issues with games like that. Even fast-paced action games like Spider-Man, I'm not having any issues, and it's a really great gaming experience overall. But I would never try to play something competitive or online with this thing. I would say if you're into playing shooting games, Call of Duty, all kind of stuff like that, fighting games online, anything that has like specific frames and stuff like that, this device probably isn't going to be great for you. But to me, I think that's kind of obvious. Basically, if you're playing a game that really benefits from having your PS5 hardwired into Ethernet in the first place, this device is not going to be something I would expect to get a great experience from. I wouldn't expect to have an amazing time playing those games on this device. I've heard it works, and I've heard people have been having good experiences with it, but when it comes to remote play, probably not the move to play online games. I'm just not sure that your connection would ever be consistent enough. So, the final question, is the PS Portal worth the $199 USD price tag? In today's world, I would say absolutely. Maybe not 6 or 7 years ago, but in today, where $200 barely gets you a trip to the grocery store, this device being under $200, it is a very capable device in the right circumstances. And I think it does its job well. For a lot of people, this is the perfect partner to their PS5. Like me, for instance, I sit in this chair all day long at my desk working, which also happens to be where my PS5 is plugged in. And when it gets to the end of the night, I want to do a little session of gaming, I don't really want to sit in this chair anymore. With the PS Portal, I can just take it out to the couch, press one button, I'm in the PS5, I'm in playing some games for 30 or 40 minutes, it's perfect. I've actually been playing my PS5 more than I ever have thanks to this device. So that's it, you guys. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything, and let me know your thoughts on the PS Portal. I know it's not as glorious or legendary as the PS Vita or the PSP, but I think it's the closest thing we're gonna get to a PlayStation handheld in today's world. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all in the next one.